Were there last time?
When you went, there was less people than the first one.
Oh, the first one was more packed.
Yeah.
The second one.
The first one, people couldn't even come in. Like, we were capped out
shit.
at 150.
Because I noticed in that back room there was more.
There was more
space.
people. Yeah,
There
it was
space back
full.
there.
Like, all that was
Yeah.
full.
Oh, no shit. So
Yeah.
this one you're at 110.
Yeah, and this one, I mean, San Diego was a good turnout too. I had
What,
like
what do
100.
you think out of those meetups? Obviously, you're promoting it. You're putting it out. What value are the people who are getting or going? Mm-hmm. What are they getting?
So I would say besides the knowledge that we're providing, because I put like, and I want to talk about this on the podcast.
Well, I already started recording, so we can chop it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we can jump on whenever you want. The reason I always like to have like a little 2 seconds or whatever.
I kind of like. What do you think about that filter? Oh, it's already there.
Yeah.
Too dark?
Oh, it's dark. Even though we have.
Okay. No, don't see it. Yeah, you're right. It's too dark. Let's do that one. Oh, good. All right.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I just leave it recording, so this way.
What's up, guys? I'm recording a podcast
Let's do this
with Richard. California Sold, as you guys
as
can see.
Yeah, aka California Soul.
AKA California Sold.
Yeah, guys. So we're gonna just start off. I have your info up here, and
Thank you for that.
no, for sure. And what's cool is I can actually pop it up in the screen, so we'll just chop it up and make it look good for your viewers.
Thank you.
So, what is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Reality Is. I'm here with Steph, aka the ADU
Realtor.
Realtor. She's like,
I don't even have a name.
Everybody's got a name, but she's the plug, right? So she does
the ADU plug.
Yeah,
I like that.
She's the ADU plug, which I like because construction actually ties into a lot of what we do, and selling that vision to people who are buying homes is actually part of the process, right? Not everybody just says, boom, I want to live here. They're like, there's always the idea. I want to do this, demo that wall, maybe add the ADU, right? So being able to talk about all those things comes in clutch, and you've actually put yourself in a great position to win with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But these meetups, dude, you've killed it with these meetups. Like,
Yeah.
I can honestly say there is nobody else that I know of, period, doing a meetup that doesn't have a catch, right?
Right.
Because you go to so many, meetings or was it like a motivational type of deal, and it's always catch, right? There's always a sell.
Like they're selling you
they're
something.
selling you on something, right?
Right.
And I have to appreciate that about what you put together, because truly what you're doing is you're just bringing people together. And
Right.
this is just a people business, you know what I mean? Literally, I walked in, I haven't seen people in this business or on the construction side in probably like 2 years, and I walk in and I see them, which was really cool to even catch up with them. But on top of that, it just shows the reach that you have, and really you're killing it. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna give Steph a couple minutes. I want her to tell all you guys about exactly what she does, how often, and kind of what let's get more into the idea of like how this even came about.
Right.
Because you didn't just become a realtor and be like, yo, let's just start ADUs. Yo, let's just start meetups. That wasn't your plan. So
No.
Let's talk about how that actually even came to light.
Well, first of all, thanks for the dope setup. You guys, he decked out his office,
Yeah.
and my office is like 2 offices down. So it's
Actually,
comparing his office to mine, I'm gonna go back to mine. Like, man,
Honestly, like, so the idea
I gotta do a lot of work to it.
Painting it, whatever. Honestly, I have to shout out Gabby. Like when we were driving here one day, and
She's a visionary.
yeah, she's like we kind of had an idea initially was gonna be like some swirls and like we were gonna give it some color or whatever, and she was like, no, like we started like working with the tape to make it work, and it didn't.
That's
work.
pretty dope. I mean, I like the color. I like the way it came out.
It just and honestly, we just kind of used what was here and what could work, and so yeah, this was her idea. We plugged in some lights and made shit. That's why
it looks so sick.
Her whole like artistic height, bro. I tell people I can sell a house. I can't design shit.
Yeah. Well, that's the woman's touch.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Right.
But I feel like that's where you guys complement each other well, right? And I don't know much about your guys' like dynamics as far as work goes, but I would like to touch on that. But I'll tell you guys briefly about who I am for those of you who are watching who don't know who I am. I'm a realtor, nothing special. But I have a special niche and targeted audience that I like to focus on, and that really it's anybody who wants to implement the ADU strategy. Right. But it's people who really want to maximize highest and best use for their property, and that really is everybody right now. Right. So which is why my strategy is so dope, because it applies to everybody. Like, who doesn't want to maximize highest and best use? Who doesn't want to offset their mortgage? If I'm talking to a first time buyer, right? Like if I'm talking to an investor, they also want to maximize that, especially in this type of market. So you're right. Like, I just bring people together. Yeah. And so they can collaborate.
Just to jump in real quick, the one thing me and you have had that quick conversation about is how, people just see it as a place to live and you're turning it into an opportunity. Right. And mind you, I had been doing ADUs with a friend of mine years ago. Before I even crossed paths with you. But one of the biggest things that I want people to understand about ADUs is how it's a long-term play, right?
100%.
And one of the biggest things that I see with a lot of people is they jump in and they're like, oh, I want to buy this house and put an ADU. And the cost that comes with it, right? And the time. So it's not so much the cost, but it's the time, the permits, the city, like you told me what, not so long ago, somebody's putting together a time frame per city.
Right. I have a friend who's literally like working on a spreadsheet. Shout out to Armando. Hopefully he's watching this. But yeah, he's working on a spreadsheet literally where he's mapping out like, okay, how does this municipality work versus this one versus this one? The city of LA alone has so many third party people involved. That's what takes forever. And that's what you and I were talking about the other day, right?
Yeah, like, and that's one of the biggest things that like you jump into, like, whether it's I remember one we got an approval like in no joke 5 minutes
over the counter.
It was Maywood, right? And come to find out, they didn't even look at them. Like, it was the craziest thing. We're like, why did this go so smooth here? We're like, we should build Maywood, right? Then you realize, fuck, there's nowhere to build in Maywood, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's like no, you can't even. Man,
literally, lot sizes there are 2,500 square feet.
You can't even park in Maywood, right? But well, it was so easy because they really.
That's probably why.
Yeah, they really didn't have anything enforced. It was just like, oh, here's your plans. Cool, they look good. See you later.
Basically, it's a shit show working with the city, and I think a lot of people need to just understand that and be a little bit more patient. Right. I come from a management background, so I used to work for realtors. I did property management, HOA management. So my whole like experience, right, that I bring to the table is the fact that I'm really good at setting expectations. So I like to be super conservative with the timelines. People expect to build, in 6 to 8 months. Yeah. Sometimes they can take longer than that. And you have to like plan for those days, right? Like, what is plan B if the project takes a little bit longer?
So I'm gonna jump into the lending side of this real quick, because
that's your background. Yeah.
This is where people don't understand is they buy something. Some people get into investment properties, they get hard money, and they, first time investors, even second time, they don't realize that they're taking on this bigger, project. Right. It's not as smooth as people want it to be, right? I mean, everything from an Edison drop, moving a panel, like everything takes
getting
time,
material.
Dude, even just sourcing windows right now sometimes takes 2 to 3 months.
Which I do have a window plug, by the way. I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for sure.
And guess what? I got the window plug from these meetups, thanks to the meetups, right? So it is a long-term play, both with the meetups and both with the ADU strategy. It's not a quick flip and let me see what the ARV is going to be in 6 months. It doesn't work that way. You have to look at it long-term, whether you're a first-time home buyer or an investor, right? Whichever way you're looking at it. And in multifamily, they already know, right? In multifamily, it's a bit different. Their mindset is already thinking 5-10 year plans versus, first-time home buyers and these beginner investors who are thinking on a 2 to 6 month. Right.
And it's funny because a lot of people close escrow and they're like, they want to start like immediately. Right. And I'm like, bro, like you can't just start demoing stuff. there's two ways to look at it. Either you do it yourself, no permits, which 90% of LA does already.
Well, that's how ADU started, right? Because I don't know what was the percentage, but a lot of garages were being built
they
illegally.
Were already converted.
They were already converted, but it created like the safety concern,
right.
which is why the government was like, all right, well, let's just legalize it and step in and create a process
and
so
tax
that
it.
and tax it and make money off of it.
Give me some permit money, dude. These guys,
they monetize whatever they can.
I swear, they'll pull a permit for a faucet. Bro.
I mean, permits also went up in price, right? So you've got like the material issues, you've got the supply issue, you've got the city issue, because a lot of the people are sitting behind the desk and they're doing what they're supposed to, but they sometimes don't even know about the ADU strategy, right? So you've got to educate them. Same thing with HOAs, right? They give you a lot of pushback. So it's a newer concept, and that's what the meetups are all about. It's like, let's come and discuss and
everybody's knowledge.
And if we all know how to work together and we have a system down, because my biggest thing right now is like working with different architects and different GCs. It's like working with realtors. Some of them got their shit together, some of them don't.
Yeah,
some honestly, of them got systems, some of them don't. It's like a hit or miss.
Contractors, if there's anything that anybody could like fine tune, would be a contractor. I know a lot of guys that are great at swinging a hammer, but terrible at business, right? And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations too, is because of product not being there, stuff not being available, the timing of all this stuff just keeps going. Oh, I'll be there in 2 days. Oh, I'll be there in 3 days. Oh, this inspection.
And I honestly believe that the lack in timing is because of lack of communication too.
Well, 100%,
because if, like during an escrow process, and I educate my clients, and I deal with a lot of realtors too, and I try to just kind of correlate like what we do as realtors. We're there to facilitate the process for our clients, right? Yeah. Make sure that we're touching base with the title rep, the lender, escrow officer, and all the vendors involved throughout the process. With the ADU thing is the same thing. You got to make sure the architect's on point, structural engineer, civil engineer, the lender, especially the lender, right? Yeah. Because if these numbers don't pencil out, then what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing?
And that's, I think, because we're kind of into this, whether you want to call it hyperinflation, recession, either way.
What is it?
Hyperinflation or
stagnation or something?
Yeah. I don't see it.
Yeah.
To be personally honest, I went shopping over the weekend. I went to Citadel right here, right? There was literally like not one parking space. Like it literally took like 20 minutes to park. And I'm like, for all the fear, it doesn't stop people from spending money. It's the craziest thing. So with that being said, people will still spend money.
Right.
Things are going to cost more, right? And I think that's one of the biggest deals where I think the statistic is 40% of all U.S. homes are paid off in full. Guys, like you can leverage that money.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the what we were talking about with reverse mortgages and how I was telling Richard the other day that I don't know much about the reverse mortgage play, but that's what we have Richard for. He's gonna educate me on it. But it just made sense. Like, okay, if 40% of people have their house paid off, that is the baby boomers, right? Which is most of the people who are holding that capital or have those houses.
And huge amounts of capital because the values have increased so much.
So those are the people that we should be targeting. Right. But if they don't understand how a reverse mortgage looks like or seller financing or what the strategy is, then it's lack of education.
We definitely have to get more creative.
Super creative, yeah.
Even going into this market, because we're seeing obviously slow down with the rates. We're seeing the prices starting to slide, just, some more than others, but it's happening.
People still need to make moves regardless, guys, regardless of the rates.
Here's the reality. Transactions close every day. Either you're part of them or you're not.
Right.
That's it. But as far as like the reverse mortgages, these people are up in their ages. They have higher costs of medical expenses, right? Cost of living. Some of these people are on Social Security. I know people getting, $600-700 a month,
right?
And it costs that to put gas in your car, really, So it's crazy to think that like they're living off of that, and these people have untapped, money essentially through equity.
And I see that opportunity, and then I also see the opportunity. I get a lot of requests from people who DM me saying, "Hey, Steph, we want to move in with our parents, or we want them to move in with us, and we want to build an ADU and have them live in it, or we live in it, they live in the main house." A lot of that is happening.
Oh, 100%.
So that's another play.
So think about it. Let's say we'll just play out a scenario, right? We got one family, husband, wife, 2 kids, lives in a house. They have a garage and maybe some space to build.
Right.
Mom has a house paid off, right? You can do a reverse mortgage, pull the money out, convert the garage or even build, depending on how much room you have. Now, mom and dad move in there, and the house that they have can be rented out. The payment on that 250K that they may need to build that is nowhere near what that thing's going to rent for.
Exactly.
So now they're cash flow positive. They keep the asset, and they build the value on the house that they're already living in.
That right there for me, right,
It's
is
like
the opportunity.
Yeah,
you keep the asset versus
asset.
you selling it and then going to move in with your kids to build.
We're both in real estate. Okay, we make money off of selling real estate, right?
We're telling you,
and I'm
don't
telling
do
you
it.
not to. Like, I'm really telling you, like, there's other ways to keep that asset.
Right.
You know, that I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I have that repeat business, because I'm not always just trying to push the sale.
Right.
The truth is, like, yeah,
I make really being an advisor on how to maximize their asset, right? And selling it is never really the option unless you really have to.
So recently, I did a podcast about generational wealth, right? And it's like this keyword buzzword on Instagram right now. You
everywhere,
see it everywhere. Oh, generational wealth, blah blah blah. You need to. Well, you know how that really happens is by not selling shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, I get it. Yes, you can sell something, reinvest it, but the majority don't. They get the money and they spend it.
Right.
They don't reinvest into another property. They don't go and get a house and then buy a 2 or 3 unit. They don't do any of that. Everybody's fighting over money when grandma and grandpa pass away, and then the money's gone.
Because they don't know how to leverage it. And I think, you know, going back to the meetups, like, that's why I feel like just educating people, putting it out there. Plus, I believe that God is going to bless me 10 times more by me just putting people together, you know, like connecting people. Yeah. And it's a long-term play for me even, right? Like, I'm using the same mindset.
Well, that's the thing. You can't go into your meetup and expect to get 20 deals out of it, right? No, you're going to meet one person who's going to connect you with the next person who's going to say, hey,
which Stephanie, to me is much more valuable than the deals. And that's where people, like, they get it twisted.
So many people that come into real estate, they don't realize that some of the transactions I closed today, I've known those people 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
And this is with other realtors even, right? So, like, some deals have happened literally because, you know, we have an established relationship. They know how I work. They know I perform. They know that I'm confident in my ability to perform, which means you're able to educate your clients and set expectations for them 100%. To make it smooth for everybody.
And that's one of the biggest things, right? Like, I always said, like, as an agent, right? Nobody wants to deal with somebody who's not in the game. You can't try to, like, oh, I'm going to just sell your house, or I'm just going to help you buy, but I don't know shit what's going on.
No, dude, it sucks because I get a lot of people who hit me up and just talking shit about realtors. That we do the bare minimum, right? Yeah. And I would say, like, the majority do, but then there's some of us who, like, really are out here doing the best we can, dedicating time and energy.
The first thing I've ever showed anybody who's come to work with me is you got to be able to build relationships.
100%.
You got to build a relationship over the phone, email, whatever. There's no way, like, if you have a listing and I call you, right, and I build that relationship over the phone, the guy may hit you up with a better offer, but you don't trust him. Right? So it's that relationship building.
At least for me on the listing side, I'm not looking at, obviously we're looking at, you know, the full DU, the offer and the terms, but I'm looking at how well the agent's communicating with me.
We all know, if you've been in this business, you know one thing. Dealing with a non-communicative communicative agent, loan officer, whatever, even escrow.
It's all across the board.
Bro, if they go ghost on you, it is a shit show. It is so
and then that shit makes us look bad, which is the same thing I'm preaching with these ADU meetups. It's like, okay, this is how, and, you know, that's why I'm telling you I'm working on that course. So I'm going to put it out there. Like, how can you create your own network without really spending a lot of money to like vetting your network? So you create a meetup, you get people to come, you vet them, you see if you want to work with them or not based on their work. And the word comes out very quickly. Like, everybody in the ADU space knows each other as well as the real estate space. And so word goes around very quickly on your work ethic. Like,
you know, I've done a lot of work and I haven't really put a lot of it on social. You know, like, honestly, your social media looks great, right? You're constantly putting videos and updates and whatever. I used to put up a bunch of stuff. I stopped, and then you get busy, and then you forget
I go through that
it.
funk too.
Yeah,
though,
we all
where
kinda,
we stop, and but my goal this year is like to stay consistent with it,
Same.
regardless of how I feel.
Right.
Which is why bulking like a shit ton of videos in one day is
and
just be it for me, and then kind of space that out.
So what the reason I brought that up was because I know what I need to do. You know what you need to do, but our contractors also need. Dude, if you're a contractor and you can get your social on point, bro, you'll have so much business.
And not just the social, the back end side, right? Like get a CRM.
Well, no, yeah. No, that's a
whole other fucking topic.
Part of the business. Like, I'm just talking about,
putting the work out there.
How am I going to trust you? You're like, oh yeah, I built this house. Oh yeah, I've done this remodel. Oh yeah, I've done everything. Yeah.
We don't know now. Okay, bro, Instagram's your resume, bro. If that shit is not on there, I don't know.
I heard a word a long time ago. I think it was Gerard Adams that put it out, but it was social currency. And like how valuable.
I think I put it on Twitter one time. I was like, social currency is better than cryptocurrency. And this was before the whole crypto shit went down. So
like 11 billion vanished like 2 days ago.
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. But you're right. It is because.
That's the long-term play for everybody who wants to come into real estate or even ADUs. And it's a long-term play to be an investor, right? You can't say I'm going to be an investor for the next 2-3 years. Right. Like this shit is a long-term thing.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems is real estate as a whole. Like if there's anything I've learned from every single person I've ever met, old school in real estate, you know what they all say? I shouldn't have sold shit. They're like, man, yeah, I did these flips. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I did that.
Right.
But I should have just held on to it. I was so quick to move it and change it and
well, Thatch talks a lot about that, right?
Yeah,
he's just versus like he's always like arguing short play versus long term play, and he'll do short term play for the now. But what he does that has to be your vehicle to get to the long term play.
And that's what he does. He'll buy, sell, stack, and then put that money into a long term play,
right?
And then repeat.
Right.
So yes, you can't. But what I'm speaking to is a bunch of guys who. We're flipping, and all that money gets burned through with taxes and everything else. And before you know it,
and you spread it out, in a span of 6 months. I'm like, how much are they really making? But and then you take into account how they work, and it's so disparate. Like, you can find a contractor that'll charge you $150 price per square foot, but that's what you're gonna get,
right?
And then don't call me back talking about let's fix the 150 and spend $250 and now we're at $350. You could have spent that.
You could have just spent that from the get-go. And that's that whole thing of pay for what you get. Mm-hmm. It unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like contractors can be very much in the wrong when it comes to this because they're quick to throw a price out. They didn't. Account for this, that, the box of worms. Once you open up a wall, you don't know what you're going to find, right?
Yeah, and it goes both ways.
I think that's one of the biggest frustrations I'm just speaking from a consumer standpoint. Like, hey, I hire you. You come out, you give me a quote of $200K to build it, and then you get there and you're like, nah, it's going to be closer to 300.
Right.
Like, there's so many of those horror stories out there. That's what's frustrating for the consumer. And that's truly what scares people away.
Yeah, I think there should be a system that these contractors should create to have people that go to these site visits and actually give them a feasibility study report to see what they can and can't do, and then give them a bid based on that. But it's so hard to gauge that, like you got to wait till you get the plans approved and then see go and see like, okay, and what's the scope of work on this?
It's crazy
based
because
on the plans.
Exactly. And it's crazy because I feel like obviously we're in California, right? Every single day it seems like a new guideline, a new
like, oh, it's $80 for you to breathe this morning.
By the way,
it'll be $106
now you
tax.
need a $40,000 solar system. By the way, you need water conservation. By the way, like all these things, and that's what's very frustrating because yes, they create the guideline, yes, they put it out and it becomes part of the plans, but your contractor
it's just at the end of the day, it's just important to know who you're working with because same shit happens with us, right? Like, some cities have pre-sale inspection, some don't. Right. So if you know who you're going to work with, what realtor knows their rules and regulations, and even with HOAs as well, like I did HOA management. So understanding how to communicate with everybody. Right? Nobody liked
you.
So I had the worst position.
You were HOA management. Nobody liked you.
But that's why I don't like HOH management now. So
Steph's actual name is Karen, by the way.
I was a previous Karen, and I knew. Yeah. But no, that's why I tell people, like, when they ask me, oh, should I buy a townhome or a condo? I'm like, good luck, don't do it. And if your plan is to like buy a townhome or you're living in a townhome and you want to convert the garage to an ADU, good luck, because the HOAs are just a whole bunch of Karens.
Yeah, it's terrible. To be honest, I had a condo in Whittier, and literally I had like, I don't want to say too harsh, but I had Miss Looky Loo every day. Dude, she had my truck, because my truck didn't fit in my garage, right? Dude, so when I was home, I would just like park in front of the garage, do what I got to do. Maybe it was write an offer and then head out, right? Mm-hmm. So I literally would park my truck, and she would literally get it towed. I've gotten towed 3 times out of there. I was like, yo, what is the problem? Like,
you need to buy an SFR or 1 to 4 units and avoid, all that chaos. Yeah. That's all you got to do.
HOA and people being able to just make a phone call over nothing, like they have nothing better to do.
I guess it all depends on your lifestyle. I also don't want to steer people away from not buying a condo or townhome. But I always tell my clients, if I was in a position to buy the SFR, I'll go that route first before looking at a mobile home or a condo or townhome, right?
Yeah.
Like
anything with an HOA personally is just super frustrating because there's more rules put in place. Right, for everything.
Yeah, you got to just go through more hurdles, and why do all that?
You can't even paint your house, bro. Yeah. You can't paint your house. You can't have so many cars. You can't park on the street. I mean, there's just things that are built into that community because they want it to look a certain way, which is fine.
Which is understandable. It's just like in a historic area. Like right now I'm dealing with an ADU project that's in a historic area. Okay. And I had an appraiser go out there to give us the ARV after the build out because it was just so hard to gauge what's the value going to be on this type of craftsman. And we're adding a 3-bed, 2-bath ADU in the back for 1,200 square feet, or a 2-bed, 2-bath, 800 square feet.
What city is this?
Highland Park.
Okay.
And it's borderline Pasadena.
Yeah, so.
So then, it was hard to comp out. Mm-hmm. But he took into consideration, like, rentals, and that's what he's going to be talking about on Friday. Okay. I think people are going to have to know, especially realtors too, right? Mm-hmm. If we're with all our investor clients, you're really going to have to know how to comp out your stuff.
I don't know exactly how. I've listened to, I forget his name.
Sydney.
Mm-hmm. I've watched a couple of your videos.
Super informative. Like, he's probably, and the reason why we work so well is we have the ADU strategy in common, right? So he's all about it too.
Nice, yeah.
But all the homework that has to go on behind the scenes to like comp it out, there isn't anything to comp it out. So you're trying to comp out of nothing.
Out of nothing, yeah. You're just trying to come up with a number. And what's crazy is, so I ran into a client here in Downey. She had just built a 3-2, right? Mm-hmm. But the zoning was still single family. And I tried to explain to her, you built an ADU, you didn't build a 2-unit property. You're not going to get the value of that. And to be honest with you, she was mad. She was like, what do you mean? That's not what they told me. Well, I mean, she was kind of like going.
And here's the thing, like, she is going to get it.
I'm like, you're going to get value. Term. Yeah, you're exactly. You're going to get the value.
Not in 12 months. Where
she wanted it right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not gonna show that value. You don't have the rental income. Right. No. So we went back and forth, and sure enough, I actually quoted 50. What I've been using is whatever the comps are for the area, cut that in half. So 50% of the actual.
Sydney is telling me 25%.
Wow. So he cut it back more. Mm-hmm. Wow. 25%. So I was overshooting it.
No, yeah, I was on the same boat. I was doing 50% just to be conservative. I'm like, all right, what's the average sales price in that neighborhood within half a mile?
He said 25%.
25% out of that.
See, this is where,
that's where I'm like, okay, I need you to come and speak about this, because
this is where
everybody's probably doing the same thing we were doing.
Well, this is why, this conversation is so crucial, because ADUs are everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. ADU. Stop. What you're telling me right now, as him going at 25%, is
him. Exactly. The appraiser.
Yeah, the appraiser. The appraiser going at 25%, that really chops the values down.
100%.
So you can't look at it as a value thing. You have to look at it as a rental thing.
Yes. All day. You have to sell the cash flow play or passive income.
Yeah.
Because the appreciation play is long term.
It's going to be
That's going to be, and maybe not even that long.
How long?
We're just so spoiled in California that you want that shit in a year.
Well, that's the problem.
Like, that's the problem.
Everybody uses their house here as an ATM.
Exactly. They're like, okay, let me build this 3-2s, in the back, or 2-2. And then now in 12 months, I want this to be worth the $300K that I spent on it, which that's not how it works. It's going to cost you maybe $300K to build it, but you're going to cash flow X amount and maybe have, I would say, appreciation in 5 to 7 years. I don't even think 10 years.
I think we're in this market where like we're barely on the downtrend. So I would say
we're still so behind on build though that's where I feel like, yes, the rates are high. Yes, we're in a weird spot, but we're like 4 million houses behind. So
okay, so it's funny. I had Josue on the other day, and we were talking about housing.
He's super dope too, Josue, by the way.
Yeah, super knowledgeable. He does property management.
Well, he helped me with the Highland one.
Oh, did he?
I hit him up. I had him send me because Sydney wanted like rents, right? Gotcha. For the 2-2s or the 3-2s in Highland Park. And just getting more accurate information from a property manager versus, let's say, Airbnb or Furnish Finder was better.
So where does that stat come from? Like where, like the 4 million houses that are short, right? Like, because I have to ask the question because I hear that often. Oh, we're short on housing. We're short on. So at what scale is that based on? It's not today. I don't feel like we're 4 million short today.
I think within the past 10 years. It's within the past 10-year period.
I don't know. That's what
it's within the past 10-year period.
Okay.
7 to 10 years.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, so are we 4 million short over the next 10 years? Like, that's how many more we're gonna need?
All I know is 4 million. That's a lot. Okay.
I mean, that's a lot. I just know it's a lot because what that does though is it really whoever's coming up with that number, right? And for whatever reason, and based on what time frame, that just shows how many rental properties are going to be needed, right? So the ADU thing comes in clutch because now you're adding one, and now the junior ADU.
You can add two in some cases, yeah. In
some cases, 3,
right,
on a single family lot. Obviously, square footage, providing you have to have square footage, but that just goes to show, as you as a homeowner, or you have a house and you're willing to do all these extra projects, how valuable that will be long term.
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month in income based on that.
You have to get creative. Like, I think most people at first were talking about ADUs just because, like, oh, let me see what I can build back here. Let me see how much cash flow I can get. Now, that's going to be your starting point. Like, you're going to have to come in with the intention of building or converting to get cash flow in order for you to afford it. Like, I think we're getting to that point where you're kind of pushing people towards it. But it is long term.
So it's affordability.
Yeah, it's affordability. Like right now, even with first time home buyers, I get a lot of people who come to me who want to buy and build. Okay. Even the buy and build strategy for them as first time home buyers, I'm telling them, like, look, this is what the ADU process looks like. However, buy your house first, and then let me talk to you in a year.
Right.
You're not gonna have the $200K. Some of these people are barely coming in with the 3.5.
That's
let alone the 200.
So and let's touch on that. Like there's something called the 203K, right? So there's a construction loan. People buying their house 3.5% down. How many of those ADUs are you seeing? Are they utilizing 203K? Because I don't get many of them. That's what I'm asking.
No, because most people don't know how it works.
Right. So this is why I'm glad we're having this conversation, and to be honest with you, why I think at the next meetup have somebody that specializes in that, because even I don't. Yeah,
we're gonna have a lender talk about it. Not this time around, but we've had it in the previous meetups where they've talked about the 203K. We've talked about the grant. We've talked about just different plays that you can kind of bring together and strategize. But yeah, for the next one, I'll have a lender.
Yeah, I think we should do a lender.
For this meetup, I wanted to really emphasize on residential multifamily comping. Like comping in itself is a topic of its own, right? Because appraising an ADU and really appraising properties in general. Like how are people? I'm curious to see how are people comping out or appraising, listing their properties right now. What's the marketing strategy? Because you can't go back 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So are you going back 12? Sydney's telling me to go back 12.
12 months?
And look at that. That's why it's good to have connects, because like I'm hearing it from the appraiser's perspective.
I was gonna say here's the problem in my opinion with the appraiser, right? So Sydney's super knowledgeable,
right?
He's doing the homework.
And he's a realtor too.
And there's a lot of appraisers that are super lazy. I think that's
the other piece of it.
That's a whole other piece of this, because you got people who are yes, they're supposed to be an appraiser, but I don't know if you've ran into this, but I literally got to show up with my own comps to try to get value.
Right.
Like, bro, that's your gig. And if they're not putting in the homework to know about this ADU thing and know how to value it, like,
it goes like with everything, right? You got to make sure that who you work with matters. And I know we say it all the time, especially here at the office.
Yeah, but hold on. But the problem is with appraisers, we don't get to pick that.
We don't.
That's why having the education behind it.
Right now, but I do tell a lot of my clients who say, investors or buyers or sellers, anybody who's asking me like, hey, what do you think my ADU is going to be worth after I build it? Yeah. Right? Everybody's coming to me for that question. Right. So that's why I built this relationship with Sydney, because I'm like, dude, everybody wants my point of view since I'm the ADU expert here. Yeah. But if I hit them with the 25%, sales price, they're not going to want to hear it. They're going to be like, that's way too conservative. Yeah. Why am I going to do it? It's the cash flow play. And I want them to hear from an appraiser standpoint too. Like, here's what the numbers realistically look like. So they just know, like, okay, it's okay if you spend X amount on it. Just know you're going to cash flow.
Just to bring that back, right? So let's just say you pull out $250K. Your payment on that is, we'll just use round numbers, $1,500, right? But if you can rent it out for $3,000, that's the point, right? So you gotta. That's where I want the consumer to understand that. Like, yes, you're gonna pull out $250, mind you get to write off the taxes,
right?
Right.
And not have to sell your house,
right? You keep the asset,
so you get to keep
and
it.
You increase the value,
right?
So you have all these things going for you. On top of that, you're cash flowing. That's the biggest thing that I want people to understand with the ADU or junior ADU, however you want to play it. And it's all based on whatever you have to work with, right?
Right.
But it's that long-term play.
It's all long-term. And I think that's how people should be thinking right now, especially right now, because people, the media is putting so much fear, and everybody's kind of like in this weird space. You don't feel it? Like,
100%.
Everybody's like, oh, yeah, recession. But just relax.
I feel like
it's everybody's mindset needs to go back to basics.
Here's the deal. If you come around the office, right, and we're in the office. We're at the office right now. We're at the office with, let's say there's 100 plus agents here, right? We're feeling the direct effect here more than the general populace. And I'll tell you why. Because our business is surrounded by that market change, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have your traditional 9 to 5, whether you work at whatever job, right? And you've been there for 10, 15, 20 years, nothing's changing. For us, we're feeling it directly and a little harsher than most, because if you went from 5 or 6 transactions a month and now you went to one or one every other month, we're actually feeling it harder now because of how much it's affected our industry. Mm-hmm. But traditionally, like if you were just making $100K a year and that was your salary job and it's continuing.
But even them, I'll tell you, they're not safe either.
Because, nobody's safe.
So, a lot of business owners, just to cut that overhead, are cutting people off to be conservative, whether they need to cut them off or not.
And that's where.
So, but for sure with us, because we're, it just works differently. Right. You could see it's impacting us first, and then it's going to hit like the 9 to 5ers for sure.
And this is where like the ADU thing comes into play, right? So like if you're
for both,
yeah, well, you have the opportunity here to create that additional income,
right? Which is what I teach other realtors. Like, okay, now understanding the escrow process is not going to be enough.
Not even close.
That ain't even going to cut it anymore. Yeah. So you have to not only articulate the escrow process and simplify it for your clients, you also got to explain the build process. So the permitting process, the construction process, and the financing that comes with the construction.
Gotcha.
And explain all that to a client from the get-go. Yeah. Now you've set yourself up to have that repeat client over and over.
Yeah, and I'm glad we jumped on this today. I think what we need to do is literally put together like a podcast just for the consumer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean? Like I think so too.
We should literally just do one for them because
my biggest struggle right now with people, just homeowners, trying to figure out how to finance their project.
Right.
finance it for people who already live in their homes and that don't have the capital for it.
I just had Kim on a couple days ago, and we were talking about a HELOC program that just came out,
which I think I'm all for.
Yeah,
but most people are against it because again, it's just a lack of knowledge.
Well, I feel like anytime you tell somebody you're going to go into more debt,
yeah, it's hard for them to
hit the brakes. But with debt comes opportunity,
right?
And I think it's just breaking it down,
just showing them how they can leverage that debt
and making it easy. Because I feel like one of my frustrations with real estate and even the people who are in real estate, they overcomplicate shit to justify their position, right?
Right.
Like I got to make this difficult so you know that I have to be the one doing it, right?
Right.
Like no, like let me.
I literally like to dumb it down for them. I have a calendar.
You make it
that's
so
my buyer
simple.
presentation, a calendar.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, you don't have this fancy buyer's." No, it's the calendar.
It's not necessary.
Because and I told them to save that under their favorites.
Yeah.
And just refer back to the calendar. Okay, what do I need to expect this week?
Yeah.
The inspection, the appraisal. What do I need to expect week 2, week 3, week 4? That's it.
Yeah.
Super simple with 10 steps
and
on the calendar.
And literally, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
That's all it
Yeah.
is. You know, a lot of people like to way overcomplicate this just to make
the process is simple.
Harder. Yeah.
But you know, the negotiations that go behind the scenes, the creativeness, all that comes in with time.
That's where I love the relationship building on that
on
portion,
both ends,
because that negotiation comes from that.
Right.
How are you going to get this deal done? Why during the hardest time to get an offer accepted, I was able to get them.
You had to pivot your strategy. So.
Dude, it's all about building that relationship.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And that was with anybody. So you got to have that. You got to be able to be on the phone, have that conversation. Listen, see what the guy's really looking for.
And literally 10x your activities.
That's, 100%.
If you're talking to 100 people a week, you got to do 3, 5.
Yeah, right now it's
1,000 people a week. I don't know how.
Get on the phone.
Literally, we should be on the phone right now. But no, but this is the same thing.
This is our reach right here.
Right.
This is why even myself and you want to do more content.
Right.
Because the truth is, this is our reach. Being able to touch people, have them engage, find out what more info, because there's always going to be more info.
Right.
I think that's one of the coolest parts about real estate is that every single home has a story. There's always something different. There's never a cookie cutter. There's always something different about every transaction. Either you're building it or even selling it or whatever. I think that's
people's motivation is what drives them, right? Mm-hmm. So even with the ADU play, one of my first questions is like, why are you building it? Is it for cash flow purposes, or is it to keep the in-laws close to home, or is it for an art studio? Is it for an office for you to work? Is it a pool house?
Oh, dude, that right there is huge. You'd be surprised how many people have converted garages into their workplace.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, COVID really, really pushed people to figure out how to.
Everybody lives this hybrid model now where you work out of the office. I come here 3 days out of the week, if that.
Yeah.
And
you're basically never here.
Yeah. I'm not, but I like to come here. Tomorrow I'll be here with the girls. At least every Wednesday I'm here for sure.
Okay.
But all the other days I'm out.
Yeah.
But I still want an office space, which is why I moved here, because I wanted that hybrid model.
Yeah.
So where I'm not going to be at the office Monday through Friday like I used to, but I'm there once or twice a week, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it just works well for me, and I think for a lot of people.
No, 100%. I was doing a loan recently, and she created her whole, literally the entire garage is a studio for they do makeup and brushes and all that stuff.
Well, I actually want to build an ADU just to have it as an office space and do the consultations there.
Yeah.
And show my clients okay, these would be the different types of finishes. This is what it would look like. Be in one, right, and feel it, and then explain the process to them.
No, it's genius. It's definitely genius. We had a couple different ideas before when I was working with the other guy. We wanted to do a warehouse.
That'd be sick too.
Almost have them built already, right? And it was
boxable type of stuff.
Not so much that, but just kind of see the stages. Because very HGTV where it was step by step, this happens, this happens.
I want to do a summit, first quarter of 2023. I want to do a big summit, and I thought about bringing different suppliers and showing people different phases.
What we should do is do an on location.
Yeah. I started doing that with the ADU play. I don't know if you saw my new Instagram page. No. It's called the ADU play. And on that one, the ADU play, I'm literally just going to focus on different ADUs in different phases, you know, from the footing phase, framing phase, just every single different phase, and then also share what the rents are going for in that neighborhood. So if I'm highlighting an ADU in Highland Park, what are rents going for? What's the projected equity play on that long term? Because again, I'm all about setting the expectations. So if I put it out there, then when people are ready to make that move, they come to me, but they already come with the expectation. Come with
the knowledge.
And the knowledge, right? So it's a no-brainer
for me. One of the biggest things I say about this industry is like how many times we repeat the same thing.
Right.
And that's why like this content, right? It's going to help people take a step back. They can watch us for an hour, be like, oh, damn, I got everything I need already.
Right.
Now I just need to come and tell you like
now they just need to make their decision. And like we're here when you're ready, and if you're not, 100%. That's cool too. Like we'll still be here.
And that's the truth. We're still gonna be here either way, right?
Right.
Don't look at it as we're trying to sell you anything. It's just literally just to help you make your decision. That's it. Yeah.
And that's what the meetups are for. And I love that I have it like at a cocktails and bar spot.
Yeah.
Because you went to the last one, right? It's
that place
dope.
is super cool.
It's a different vibe. Yeah. And I want to do different ones in different areas.
I'm going to bring it up on the screen so they can see it clear.
Thanks.
Good.
So yeah, that's happening Friday, guys. Friday, 4 to 7. And then I'm off. I'm out for like a week.
She's like, I'm on vacation.
I am kind of.
So let me ask you a question. So when you're putting this together, and just so people watching know, do you because I feel a lot of people are hesitant to even show up.
Right.
Right. They're just like, I don't know what to expect. Da da da. Like, yo, this is just information, guys. The last one I went to, like, I learned stuff about like
opportunity
the most random stuff, and I was like, damn, I never even thought of that. I forgot the guy's name from San Diego.
Adam Stone.
Adam,
the lawyer.
Bro, he was breaking stuff down. I was like, dude, this is why it's crucial for you guys and anybody else who wants to get into this. Always be learning something.
Well, that's literally what I do all day. That's why it doesn't even feel like work to me. And these events are fun. Plus, I know my personality on the DISC profile, so I know I'm more of an IS. So I do things in lead gen category that fit my personality. And for me, it's getting a whole bunch of people, just social gathering, getting people together and connect and bring different topics to the table. Yeah. And I want it to be valuable, but I also want it to be fun. Like, we're not just there to be like super professional and like
this whole, like, even the whole like idea of this little mini studio that we put together, right? Like, I didn't want it to be boring.
Right.
I see so much stuff and it's just so repetitive. Like, hi guys, I do real estate. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and honestly, my meetup is like super. Like, when you went, it's straight to the point. So we got 30 minutes with the speakers. I come up with the topics, and really, I'm very intentional about who I bring on too. I don't just get random speakers and bring them on. Like, I really want to give value. So like this one, we're talking about ADU updates, new laws that are huge. Like, one is making sure that we now have a response within a 60-day turnaround for the permits,
which is huge.
Like, people don't get it. Now, you mean to tell me in 2 months I can get permits approved versus waiting 6-8 months? There's been
people who have been waiting for
12
a year.
months.
A year for permits. Crazy.
Right. So yeah, I mean, things like that. We'll be talking about comping out ADUs because I literally like feed off of the questions I'm asking.
Right. Yeah.
So the feedback that I'm getting from you guys on Instagram is what I'm coming up with ideas and saying, all right, I need an appraiser to come and talk about how to comp ADUs. Right. I need a multifamily investor because I want to start tapping into multifamily this year. So the beauty of doing these meetups is that I get to coordinate them in whichever way I want, to what I want and how I want to attract people that are like-minded and that are with the same goal. Like, I feel like that to me is
this one's awesome. I feel like this is for more of people in it. I think if anything, we need to really push one that's just consumer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Right, because this one is more like for bringing vendors and other realtors
and connecting them to.
Yeah. Let's do it. I'm doing one with Vanessa. She works with Kyle at Serene Team. I don't know if you know her, but she's going to be doing different pop-ups in different coffee shops and doing it more like a community-based type of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that would be dope because then now you're really talking to homeowners, on a personal level.
I ran into, I door knock a lot of NODs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
We ran into one recently, and Gabby actually got the neighbor to come out, had a conversation. Along with the ADU thing, what I want to bring to the table too is also how to protect the asset, right?
Right.
And
right.
so many properties are in probate right now. People who just didn't have stuff in play and you don't know, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think
Which we can help
yeah,
you guys, by
yeah.
the way. Like,
yeah, we have I trust people.
you know, we don't
with it
just
right
put
now.
up sold signs. Like, we can also
God,
help you with
dude,
trust.
I swear, you know what's funny though? So many people think it's like, oh, you put a sold sign, put some open house
Yeah.
signs. That's all you do. No, bro, that's not all we do. So
No, and definitely get it
Yeah.
in a trust, get it in something LLC. I don't care what it is before you get it to that probate
Yeah.
phase, because once it's in probate, it's just
it's a nightmare. Yeah, it's a nightmare. So the ADU play, bringing some money to the table, protecting your asset. Like we'll have to really plan one.
And anybody's welcome to come.
Yeah.
So hopefully you and Gabby will be there. I don't think she was there last time, but if she
Yeah.
was, more than welcome to come by. I want to get more females on there on stage as well. I feel like
Dude,
more
that's-
women
so
doing what I do.
Gabby's starting like an actual interior design
So she
company.
can maybe talk about designs.
So yeah,
you know?
and not only that, but how to be functional on small spaces, right? Like she gets it, I don't get it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
and honestly, that's a big
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Because people always want the best like functionality. Like
Right.
what's the best functional space, especially when you're talking about ADUs under 500 square feet. Like, how creative do we need to get
right.
with these types of spaces?
and that's the thing. But with that 500 square feet, you know,
How do we make it feel like it's 800?
How do we make it feel right? How do you make it useful?
Right.
And then turn it into good rent.
Right.
So
Yeah, like what's appealing for your avatar or your
Right.
client or whoever it is that. And that's one thing that I also help with is like the exit strategy. So if they're going to do management, I help them with that.
Property
and
management,
because that's what I used to do. I have property management background, but I always tell them, like, I always just bring them aware of different options, you know, like you can do STR, you can do MTR, you can do LTR.
break those down for people.
So a short STR is short-term rental,
Right.
MTR is midterm rentals, and a long-term LTR is long-term rentals.
yeah.
Now the difference between the short-term rentals and midterm rentals is the time frame. And I honestly would opt more for MTR because of the fact that you kind of avoid all the ordinances and rental ordinances with the city. And that's exactly what I tell my clients. But
So-
I don't steer them anyway. I just say these are your options.
What are
can
are
do.
you running into right now? Because I'm seeing a lot of, I don't want to say shit show, but with Airbnb, right?
I would say MTR.
MTR, right?
Yeah,
That's
because
middle
that
ground.
you're targeting like travel nurses, corporate stays, people that do construction work, right? Like if there's a big project nearby, they
Right.
are paying for that housing up front and ahead of time. Same with the nurses. Same with these insurance companies.
That
That corporate lifestyle
Yeah.
just is more reassured. It's almost like that,
Yeah.
like that luxury Section 8.
luxury living, yeah.
Luxury Section 8, you know,
yeah,
where
for
it's
sure.
like for sure,
Yeah.
they got your
Yeah,
back, and
yeah.
they'll pay a premium as
Right.
long as that property's furnished.
What people don't understand is travel nurses like Kaiser pays huge, bro.
Oh, yeah,
For-
100%.
for like a 3-month rental or a 6-month rental.
and they pay in advance,
Yeah.
right? And like they're set for 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So I would much rather have that and still have access to my property every 3 to 6 months. I
Right.
can go check on it. I can do maintenance. I can go in. I prefer that over long term.
Yeah. So guys, one of the biggest problems with long term is that you end up into renters' rights. And if you know anything about LA City or even the county lines, like it's sad to say, but it's true. The renters are so protected.
Right.
The owners are the ones actually getting kind of beat up here, you know?
Yeah, so because it's such a biased state towards tenants, I'm
yeah.
not really for the LTR.
Yeah.
And then the short-term rental, like in Long Beach, we can't have short-term rentals, right?
They
It has
cut
to be
those completely, right?
30-day minimum. And I
Yeah.
think that's in a lot of cities.
Yeah.
So then you got to deal with the ordinances on the short-term rental side, and on the LTR side, you got to deal with the tenant
So that
issues.
midterms-
so that
yeah,
midterm for me is like the no-brainer. Like that's the route I would go.
So
right?
so you definitely, this is why, like, when it comes to every situation on a build, it's gonna be the back of your house. You know, you gotta, all those things come into play. So all those questions need to be answered. And that's
Right, because if on the long term play you can rent it out for $3,000 on average, right?
Right.
Now MTR we're talking $6,000, $8,000.
Right.
So then like, what does that do for your future or your 9 to 5? Like, how does that help you offset your job, your mortgage?
So many people have turned
different
one property,
right,
and then turned that into their business
scaled it,
and
right?
scaled it, and just to the next business, to the next property, and that's
That's the way to go.
That's the way to go, guys. That's the way to like structure this so you can constantly keep stacking more properties, more income, and leverage yourself. Because now you can be.
And if we as realtors did a better job educating our clients by doing all this, then guess what? We would also have that repeat business long term, right?
This is where like I can say where I failed for sure. I have a lot of this knowledge. I haven't put it out there. I put out little bits or talk about it in stories and stuff, and that's why I told myself coming into
no, but it takes a lot. Like
it's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of energy. You know, like I told you this morning, it's just sometimes you don't feel like getting up and like doing the content play.
Trust me, yeah.
But what I'm starting to realize is okay, the days when I do feel like doing a lot of content, let me bulk.
Yeah,
let me
do a lot. Yeah,
you know, like if I'm in that vibe where I want to put the knowledge out.
Yeah, I know guys that do literally like 8 hours one day and then use that for a whole month.
Yeah.
You know,
a lot of the podcasts too, I repurpose and I chop it up, you know, but yeah, I mean, it just connecting with us is going to be your best bet. We're like a one-stop shop here. You know, Richard specializes in a lot of NODs too. So we all, in order for you to succeed in this business, you and I both can say that you have to niche down into something.
You gotta, not only that, but you have to have some knowledge everywhere. It can't.
Yeah, it can't just be one.
Can't be just one.
But the knowledge from everywhere comes from the relationships from everywhere. See, like I don't need to know everything about STR, MTR, or you know, even like life insurance or NODs. I just know who to go to.
Right.
And so having that confidence in like, all right, what's your question? What do you need? I don't know that, but you got property management. Let me send you to Josue. Let me send you here. Let me.
Yeah, that's so crucial because even one of the first videos I put up when I started doing this here, I think I referred like 9 people for trust. Like, it just goes to show people were really looking for that,
right?
But just didn't have that, you know. And
it's that trust factor that led them to come to you and say, "All right, now because people come to us." I want to make sure that I refer them out to the right architect, to the right GC, to the right lender.
I can honestly say, you know,
and that's where
we're going to go.
Struggling.
We're going to go a little off topic here because this is one of my struggles and yours. You know, when people come to us, we refer the best that we have too, right?
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't quite work out, and then we're the face of that F up. You know, and it's super frustrating because we do really try to put that extra effort into making sure, like you said, you vet people to make sure that they know what they're really talking about. Show me what you've done.
And even when you vet them, some people go through some shit or whatever.
Yeah, they flake, they don't answer their calls, whatever. So bear with us, guys. We're really trying to put together as much as we can for you. As well as always learning.
And at the end of the day, you know, like I think to myself, you know, because a lot of people ask me, well, how do you feel about like referring people out, and what if they, you know, don't do a good job and it's gonna fall back on you? And I would let that fear and that limited belief hold me back. Like, you know, if I keep referring people out and they do not so good job, then now I look like the bad person.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at it from that perspective. Like I did what I could at that given time and try to be a resource for you. And 100%. With people that I thought I highly vetted. And if they didn't perform, that is so out of my control. That's like saying, why did we cancel escrow? And the escrow didn't go through for XYZ.
Right.
That was out of your control, right? Like
it happens
the loan
so much,
couldn't go through or so many things. Yeah. Your credit score got fucked up a week before closing and you weren't supposed to buy 7 cars, you know, right before closing. Yeah. So, yeah, like all these factors come into play that I feel like at least my intention initially was to help them out. That whatever comes out of that, it is what it is.
Yeah, that energy we put out, right? It's always positive. Unfortunately, it doesn't always come back that way.
Right.
But that's naturally what we're constantly putting out and putting into other people's hands. You know, this is one of the hardest places I think to be in is where you have the knowledge and then you have the people and then you're not there on every conversation. You can't be.
Right.
It's some of those things you got to kind of roll with the punches.
And then you also learn. You live and learn. Like I'm very free and giving at like, okay, I'll trust you. I'll refer business to you. But then if you don't perform,
you got to cut it.
Then I cut it. Yeah. And I simply just don't refer you business ever again. Yeah. You know, and then I apologize to my client on your behalf, which I shouldn't.
But you're going
to. But
I'm
going to because my integrity is there.
Yeah.
And now if my client's mad because I did that and I referred them to somebody who didn't perform, then my client's now being delusional too because I don't have control over that person's actions. You know what I mean? So at some point in time, you got to also think about it logically and like it is what it is. We do the best intention. And that's why these meetups are so important for me because I started the meetups because it was somebody who I thought wasn't I thought he was who he said he was, but he was just a total scam.
Oh, that one
dude, remember?
Bro, that's so crazy.
Rogelio, by the way. And I've told other people, right?
Bro, that's so crazy because
yeah.
I remember one of my buddies trying to work with him. And I was like, bro, this guy's
something was off. There was
right?
just something off.
Yeah, about that dude. But
he knew his shit. So that's the scary part.
Yes, but what's crazy, I was always really weird with, like, I don't know. He would hit me up on Instagram, like, randomly. Like,
he was one of the first people that hit me up on Instagram. Really? And I was like, diving into the ADU stuff. It's been about 4 years now.
Yeah, it was a while back, for sure.
Yeah, it's been like 4 years. So I started tapping into it, and then we did a live together. I still hadn't met him in person. Then I met him in person. Then we did like a meetup, and turns out he wasn't who he said he was. He didn't do loans. He didn't finance ADUs. He didn't build ADUs.
Yeah, he didn't.
And I was like,
you're like, wait, what? Yeah.
What? But I didn't know enough.
And it's crazy.
You know what I mean? So now I know.
What's nuts though is like I didn't meet you until years later.
Right.
And to find out it's the same guy.
It's the same guy, yeah.
Yes,
it's because of him. It's because of him that I started the meetups, because I was like, okay, if this guy, and then after that I met 2 or 3 other contractors that were shady as fuck. So I was like, okay, this is like a trend in the construction world. So let me set the trend and let me start doing these meetups myself, and learning it.
And there's a lot
from
of
head to toe.
Honest, good contractors, dude. It just sucks that there's so many that get away with the shit show.
Yeah, especially right now, because it's like this wave of ADUs. So now you got GCs who've never done one, who all of a sudden are experts. Right. But yeah, I mean, it was a shit show. So that's how this started, and that's why I'm like super passionate about it, and it's fun to me. Yeah. Like, it's just the easiest way for me to connect with people. Right. Super like passive, but also there with intention. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm here to help you in whichever way it is that you need help. But most importantly, it's not even about what I put out there. It's the connections that are made. Right. That's how I will be blessed to next.
Long term.
By just putting people in certain rooms. Because I've had, like, from these meetups, I can't say how many deals I've closed, but I will say that there's a lot of deals that have been made. Right. In the meetups. And it feels good when people text me like, hey, like Adam, the attorney, he's working with another speaker who I had at the San Diego event, and they're working on like a 40-acre deal in San Diego.
Crazy. 40 acres?
That's some crazy shit like that. Deal. That's a lot. Like, and so I don't know if it was 40 or 4 acres, but I just know it was acres. And acres to us is a lot. Like 1 acre is already a lot. We already cut it.
In LA County, that's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's $1 million.
So they're working on this ranch, literally. Right. I have people from the Bay Area that have came to my events, from Riverside County, LA County, San Diego County. So it's all the counties, literally from LA all the way up to San Diego. And and I'm going to scale a team, out there in San Diego too, and then do more meetups, just kind of all down the coast. Yeah. We're just going to do coastal meetups all year, and connect with people. And that'll translate into more deals. Like, it
will, 100%, because
that's all it's about.
And that's where, like, I think one of the biggest things is, yes, you're connecting people, and the byproduct of that is what you'll receive in long term. Right. That connection, that sale, that, whatever, those loans.
And it's nothing. It just literally costs me my time and energy to put it together, because you can do these meetups. Anybody can do these meetups. The girls from the team, I tell them, like, look, I'm showing you that anybody can do it. Yeah. You just pick a spot, you pick the topics, you get people together.
I brought that up in the beginning. You're the only one I know putting anything like this together, period.
And like, I'll get like 100, 150 emails, and if times that by, let's say, 10 events a year, and then drip campaign them throughout the year, it's just
it's leverage.
100%. Yeah.
And
I'm not running ads yet, so any sponsors?
Anybody want to drop in right now?
We'll need a bigger spot by then, but but anybody's welcome. I mean, it's super dope to just see what comes about from it, because honestly, sitting around and twiddling your thumbs and trying to figure out like what you're gonna do is not gonna cut it.
Yeah, I see a lot of agents just kind of,
you got to pivot.
Right. You got to pivot. You got to put your energy into something that's going to be productive. And I see a lot of people.
Yeah, and this for sure stands out. So do whatever it is that you think will help you stand out in your marketplace based on your personality, because the biggest struggle with the social media is that we care too much about what people think, or we're just not in the mood to do it.
100%.
Right? But
I used to be that guy.
Yeah, me too.
I used to be that guy for
but
sure.
You know what's crazy is the reverse psychology is if I put myself out there, then people who connect with my vibe will come to me.
That's it.
And that's it. That's the only way I want to look at it.
I've said that forever.
That's it.
We're not for everybody.
No.
You've seen me in this office. You'll never catch me out of a t-shirt and jeans. And I'll close millions of dollars like that. I don't need a suit. That's not who I connect with.
Right.
You know, and that's the best part.
You know your targeted audience and you know how people connect with you. And that's who I want to connect with because I'm not trying to prove a point with people who don't trust me or don't believe in me or don't want to work with me. 100%. But, you know, when you're starting off as a realtor, you feel like you kind of have to put up with all that because you're in this scarcity mindset. And then I feel like for a lot of the newer realtors, they need to somehow get themselves out of that and feel more abundant. Like,
I see the problem with that. It leads back to that whole facade. Like, don't, you know, I've heard that forever. Fake it till you make it, bro. I'm not about that. Yeah. You know, I'd rather just struggle to dig myself out of whatever it is, you know, and to each his own. But I see that a lot in this industry, and you can have a nice chill suit, look good on Instagram, whatever, and still not have the knowledge. Right. You can act like you're doing shit, but you don't know shit.
And right now, everybody's gonna know. Yeah. If you were acting or if you really knew your shit. Yeah. Right.
I just told somebody that recently. I was like, remember all those people on Instagram and everything that was going on and and then quiet.
Yeah, because that's just one piece of the puzzle, right? It's like the marketing and doing all the content creation. But what are you doing on the back end? Right. What are you doing when the lights are off, when nobody's watching, and your downtime? Like, that shit shows, right? It really does.
Not only that, but what else can you talk about?
Yeah, exactly.
What else can you talk about? Like, that's all you got? Like, come on. So if the only thing you're actually promoting is, you know, the idea of the cars and the Instagram bling, or
which is so unattainable for the average person. Like, who are you trying to sell on? It goes back to what you were saying earlier, like, you know, how realtors try to make it seem like escrow process is so complicated just to sell their position. Just to sell it, Like, no, it's just, you cannot sell the lifestyle of wanting to be a realtor, and everybody wants a car and everybody wants to be out, you know, and about in fancy restaurants, fancy cars. But they don't want to make the calls. Right. And they don't want to door knock, and they don't know how to negotiate, and they're fucking scared to call.
Dude, you know, people are so scared to even knock on somebody's door.
Somebody's door, yeah.
Like your business is at that front door.